The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, figuring they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
The Monday Dan Quinn news conferences often aren't newsworthy. This won't be one of those cases. 3:30 this afternoon, we're going to hear from the head coach. And the main questions are going to be about injuries. It looks like they have lost Austin Eckler, who is their number one running back for the year with a torn Achilles, and Dietrich Wise, who was a big offseason pickup, played with the Patriots, won a couple of Super Bowls there. Looks like he's out for the year as well. And it's a team that was quite healthy last year, on its way to a magical season. There are indications now, and it's just one game, but the magic may be running out. We'll see. They're fortunate that they've got the Raiders a week from this Sunday, and the Raiders are going to be on a short week. They play tonight against the Chargers, and we'll get into the whole Harbaugh and Pete Carroll feud that goes back, believe it or not, to 2007. It's 18 years. They do not like each other, and I will not be up late tonight watching them as they kick the game off. I think it's at 10 o'clock. But there's always fireworks when they go head-to-head. But the Raiders on a short week, that should be a help, going west to east, playing at a 1 o'clock game, which is on their body clock at 10 o'clock in the morning. So we'll see where that goes. Now, this is all we have on the Eckler injury on the record. Eckler carted off the field in the, I believe it was the fourth quarter, maybe the third quarter on Thursday night. The game was, pretty much out of hand at that point anyway. But this was Quinn asked about the possibility of losing Eckler for the year and what that might mean.
Yeah, that will be significant. Let's hope for the best and see where we get to. But he does provide a lot of unique things for us. Like I said, there was a tough game from the injury standpoint, and let's get a better sense with he and Wise are the two. Just let's go get a look and see where we're at. I don't want to just speculate and see where we're at, but. He's a heck of a player for us.
Wise would be Dietrich Wise, and it's quad injury, apparently muscle stripped from bone. Ugh. So, those are two concerning things. Looks like Bill is going to be moving up to be the top running back, and Chris Rodriguez, who was inactive for the first two games, now is going to be needed, and we'll see what else they do in picking up another back. But that is a huge loss in Eckler. Now, he's not been returning kicks this year. Deebo Samuel is doing that. But he does so many other things in the run game and the pass game. Veteran guy, 31 years old. I can't imagine he makes it back from this. I don't know what the contract situation is for him here, but I'm sure there's no guaranteed money. So that's the league. Next man up, and Austin Eckler appears to be lost for the season along with Dietrich Wise, and we'll find out more about other injuries, including, and this is a hold your breath type of situation, there was a report on Friday afternoon, I think it was Grant Paulson who reported this on WJFK, that Jayden Daniels had an MRI on his knee. He was limping into the press conference after the game, and he was asked about the limp, and he said he's fine. I thought it was an ankle injury. There seemed to be a lot of people talking about ankle after the game. That's the first I heard about knee. Now, maybe it's related to that. I don't know. But here's something that I think is a little bit troubling. It's after 9 o'clock on Monday morning. I know we're going to hear officially from Dan Quinn this afternoon. But you would think that if it's nothing to worry about, there would be more leaks coming out of pushback on that. And sometimes silence is deafening. So I'm not sounding the alarm, but I think you do have to be concerned about it. And anytime you're talking about that player who is the franchise, he is. I mean, he's the future for the next 10 years. And if it is anything that is even a slight concern, this is why you have Marcus Mariota. You sit him next week. He has yet to miss a game in his NFL career, which I didn't think was going to be possible based on what happened in the opener last year against Tampa, where he just got clobbered. And then in the second game against the Giants, he took a hit, which looks like he broke ribs, Turned out he had the wind knocked out of him, came back after one play, but they did finally admit after the season was over that he was playing with broken ribs for part of the year, including the Hail Mary game against the Bears, which really turned the season around. And not to drift too much off course here, but, you wonder when it's going to be time to worry about Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was okay last year. He got sacked an awful lot. He's tied for the second most sacks in a season. I think it was 68 that he had last year. But he plays another game yesterday. His team gets blown out. It's blown out by Detroit, which had a lopsided loss to the Packers in game one, and maybe that's somewhat encouraging for Washington that a team that good and looked that good yesterday still lost to the Packers. Packers defense looks to be the best in the league, but Lions won the game 52-21. Caleb, very pedestrian stats, 19 of 30, 207 yards. He did throw 2 touchdowns and was picked off once, and he was sacked 4 times. And it may be getting to the point where the Bears may be looking at this like, boy, we really should have done our homework, because there were people who are skilled at looking at tape, looking at workouts, and have said, yeah, if I was picking number one, and this was going into the draft, not hindsight, going into the draft, I would have taken Jayden Daniels number one, and Caleb Williams would not have been the number one pick. And there was even some, I think Ben Standing had this, that if somehow Chicago had taken Jayden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy would be here. Now, McCarthy didn't look so good last night either. So, still some growing pains. And I think, the one big takeaway or among the big takeaways from the game against Green Bay the other night is, for the first time, at least for me, in the 22 games that Jayden Daniels has played for Washington, he looked ordinary. He looked, I know he struggled in the first game against Tampa, but in this game it was kind of like, yeah, you can find a way to beat him if you've got a defense that good and if you've got Micah Parsons. So, keep your fingers crossed. 3:30 this afternoon, we'll find out more about the injuries, the 2 expected ones, that Wise and Eckler are out for the year, and then the big question, what about Jayden Daniels? I will say this, having observed Dan Quinn, he's even more evasive about injuries than Ron Rivera was. What Rivera used to do for these Monday news conferences, he would not talk to the trainer before he talked to the media, and they would ask about injuries. He says, I haven't had a chance to talk to the trainer. Quinn does it another way. So even if there is some concern today about Jayden Daniels, I'm not sure we're going to find out at 3:30. And then we have this from the college football weekend. I mean, some incredible games were played. The Notre Dame-Texas A&M game on Saturday night was great, and the Tennessee-Georgia game was fabulous. And I have been watching college football since the 1970s, since the early 1970s, when Woody Hayes declared that 3 things can happen when you throw a pass and 2 of them are bad. Therefore, we're going to run the ball and we're going to have 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense, which is difficult to do on artificial turf. But that's what they did. It was not exciting. And you can complain all you want about the NIL and players changing teams, but the games are great. It's a very entertaining product, and we had that, except for the game between LSU and Florida. And Florida looks to be terrible this year. They lost to the University of South Florida at home. The University of South Florida came back, and they won their game this week. University of South Florida lost to Miami 49-12. So the University of South Florida beats Florida at Florida, then gets their doors blown off by Miami. Meantime, LSU, which has beaten Clemson, they're 1-2. They beat Troy, whoop-de-doo, 27-16. They lost on a field goal at the gun at Georgia Tech over the weekend. And LSU, although they are ranked number 3, I believe, what have they done? They beat a bad Clemson team. They beat a bad Florida team. And they looked okay against a team that they should hang 40 on. That's Louisiana Tech, who they beat 23-7. So they win the game against Florida. And I know you play to win the game. But Brian Kelly, who I've always found to be a phony and should have been fired at Notre Dame in 2010 when he sent Declan Sullivan up in the lift to tape practice, because it was so important that they have film of practice. And the wind was blowing, by reports, over 30 miles an hour. According to an investigation that was done by the LA Times some years later, the recommendation of the manufacturer is that nobody goes up in it when the winds are more than 28 miles an hour. So he was sent up in a dangerous situation. Declan Sullivan tweeted out that this might be the end for him. He was predicting his own demise, maybe tongue-in-cheek, but maybe not. And he died, and Brian Kelly should have been fired. The family decided not to pursue any legal action, and it kind of went away. Kelly got his team to the national championship game. They got clobbered by Alabama. He stayed there for a while. Then he goes to LSU. This would have been 2021, right? 2021, 22, 23, yeah. 2022. Went there in 2022. So this is his fourth year there. And his records are very pedestrian. They're 10-4. 10-3, 9-4. First two records with Jayden Daniels, generational quarterback. They have played in the Citrus Bowl, the ReliaQuest Bowl, and the Texas Bowl. This was supposed to be a job that anybody could win a national championship because good old dopey Ed Orgeron won a national title there. So Brian Kelly, this big genius from Notre Dame, he ought to come into LSU and just beat everybody. Well, he hasn't beaten anybody yet. He hasn't been in the playoff, even with it expanding to 12 teams last year when he lost 4 games. And so now he's getting really chesty and sounding very defensive about winning a game 20-10 over Florida. And this is how he opened his news conference, with kind of a chip on his shoulder.
We did whatever was necessary to win the game. Defensively, obviously the 5 turnovers, playing to our defense. Grant Chadwick was outstanding. I'm sorry that that doesn't sound appealing to you folks, but I really don't care. We're trying to win football games. We flipped field position, and I think he had 4 inside the 20. 4 inside the 20. He was our weapon on offense today, and that's how we needed to win the game. We came up with a big play with the run at the end of the game to salt it away. And just really, really pleased with our guys and the way they handle things.
We won. I really don't care. He continues. This is more of Kelly's opening statement.
Sometimes I think as fans, you got to understand there are ways to lose that game if you're not smart. And I thought we were very smart in the way we managed the game. And managing it was for the outcome that we got, and that is winning a football game in the SEC. This is a journey. This is a long time. Do we want to clean up things? Absolutely. But, again, holding somebody to 10 points that has talented players on the offensive side of the ball, and then finding a way to win the game. Really proud of our group.
Okay. Now comes the questions. So he's already said to you, hey, we won the game. Essentially, shut up. People think that you can just win this game. It's a lot harder than it looks. Now comes the questions. This is a question of a coach who's making $10 million a year. He's come to LSU not to play in the ReliaQuest Bowl, but to play for the national championship. He's beaten 2 teams that are huge disappointments this year, Florida and Clemson. Clemson is 1-2. Florida is 1-2. He's 3-0. Okay, including a win over Louisiana Tech. So this is the first question that's asked, and listen to how he responds.
I know you love these immediate post-game sessions, but what are you seeing with your offense?
Stop. Really? Is that the first question? We won the game 20-10. Try another question. What do you want me to tell you? I just laid it out for you. We played the game to win the game. We played the game to win the game.
All right. How about third down then? What is going on with third down?
It's one game. Last game, we were great on third down. You're looking at this from the wrong perspective. LSU won the football game. Won the game. I don't know what you want from me. What do you want? You want us to win 70-0 against Florida to keep you happy?
No, I think people want to know why you can't run the ball, quite honestly.
We can run the ball. Did you see the last play of the game? That's all you need. You just need one. There's a ridiculous questions. And I'm getting tired of it. That football team just worked their tail off to get an SEC win, and you want to know what's wrong. You know what? You're spoiled. You're spoiled. This team is 17-1 at night. 17-1. Give them some respect. How about that? Give them some respect instead of micro-analyzing every little thing. This is ridiculous. For a group of seasoned reporters, that kind of question is so out of line.
Coach Deshaun Spears, 2 interceptions tonight. It seems like he's worked into a role on an
That's
important
a
role
great question. Thank you.
Oh, come on. You dope. 17-1 in night games. Well, LSU plays most of its games at night. And last I checked in the standings, there's not a category for wins at night. Okay, 17-1, mazel tov. You play your home games at night. LSU is legendary for playing games at night. And as far as the third downs go, Garrett Nussmeier, your fifth-year senior, who the boosters paid a fortune to come back and not go in the NFL draft, he's 17 for 41 on third downs this year. So, Brian Kelly, you ought to shut up. You just ought to shut up. And when you have a news conference and people want to ask you questions, not all the questions should be, whoa, you got 5 interceptions. Your secondary must be fantastic. Oh, that's a great question. Oh, third downs? You're questioning on that? 1741, senior quarterback, fifth-year senior. Not so good. Not so good. So let's see what happens to the chesty Mr. Kelly when they've got some games down the road which are not going to be cupcakes. They've got coming up at Ole Miss, at Vanderbilt, which, by the way, is really good this year. Vanderbilt beating Alabama last year. They followed it up with a really good team, and that's at Vanderbilt this year. Then they got to play Texas A&M. Texas A&M just beat Notre Dame, which was talking about the national championship earlier this year. And then they have to play at Alabama. So let's see, Mr. Kelly, who's so proud of his team because they beat a bad Florida team, scoring 20 points. Okay, they held Florida to 10. Big deal. South Florida beat them. South Florida got killed by Miami. So, why he's still allowed to coach is only because the Sullivan family decided that they weren't going to pursue legal action. I wonder how far that would have gone. Because, again, the L.A. Times doing that investigation where Kelly clearly lied. He said, we checked the winds. It was 22 miles an hour. No. The winds were over 30 miles an hour. The manufacturer of the lift, which toppled over in the high winds, does not recommend sending anybody up in it when they're 28 miles an hour or over. So, again, no pun intended, that blew over. He did have some pretty good teams at Notre Dame and got a $100 million contract to go to LSU, not to go to the ReliaQuest Bowl or the Texas Bowl, but to play for the national championship. And by the way, old dopey Ed Orgeron, who got Joe Burrow there. Oh, yeah, well, he got Joe Burrow. Well, he got him there. And, Brian Kelly got Jayden Daniels there. Now, Jayden Daniels didn't have the college career that Joe Burrow had, but he also won the Heisman Trophy. He also was a high draft pick, not 1 like Burrow, but 2, and is proving to be a great NFL quarterback. And what did you do with Jayden Daniels? You won, 10 games both years, and total of 7 losses in those 2 years? No, that's not why they're paying you $10 million a year. And you want to get sensitive about legitimate questions from the news media? Get over yourself. Get over yourself. Coming up, Pete Carroll, who's, what's your deal, man, as he once again goes up against Jim Harbaugh, and they got history. They got history going back to 2007. He talked about it yesterday in an interview that he did on ESPN, which will air tonight as part of the coverage. Doubleheader tonight, so there'll be the second game as the Raiders and Chargers play with the focus on the 2 coaches. Pete Carroll celebrating his 74th birthday today. That and more as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
What has become crystal clear in the NFL over the years is in order to be a contender, you have to have one of those elite guys. And you're in good shape as long as your elite guy is on the field. It appears that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to have to do without their elite guy for 3 months. Adam Schefter reporting that, in fact, Joe Burrow, who left yesterday's game against Jacksonville, which, by the way, they won, but that's Jacksonville at home, a little different the rest of the schedule, that Joe Burrow will need toe surgery that will keep him out a minimum of 3 months. So you're looking potentially at Christmas for a return. If they can manage to stay in the race, you got a few games left, and then you get in the playoffs and you never know what happens. But it's a turf toe injury. Let me remind you now, medical techniques are different now than they were then. But Jack Lambert, one of the toughest guys ever to play in the NFL, had his career ended because of turf toe. You hope that's not going to be the case for Joe Burrow. You hope that he can make it back in 3 months and that Cincinnati is still in contention. But that's a guy who's one of the highest paid players in the league, as Jayden Daniels will be. But as they say, the best ability is availability, and it looks like Cincinnati's going to have to do without their franchise quarterback for 3 months. Hold your breath on Jayden Daniels, too, because there's a report that he had an MRI Friday or Saturday. It may not be serious. It may have been just a precaution, but we'll find out more from Dan Quinn when he holds his news conference today at 3:30. I say we'll find out more. He'll be asked about it. If it is something that is concerning, I think he's going to push it off a little bit because after he talks today, he won't have to talk to the media until Wednesday. So they'll give him 2 more days to figure something out. Also, if Jayden Daniels isn't going to play on Sunday, he wants to keep the Raiders guessing. He's not going to come out and say on Monday unless it is serious, and let's hope it's not. But that's the deal in the NFL, that you better keep your quarterback upright. And by the way, Schefter also has some stats that since Burrow came into the league, the offensive line has been rated among the worst in the league. So, it's like having a beautiful car, but you don't take care of it. You don't keep it in a garage. You don't keep it tuned up. And that's the Bengals, and they've had to dump money into their star players like Jamar Chase and Hendrickson, but your quarterback needs to be protected. And that's one thing they did here this year. Now, fortunately, they're not going to face Micah Parsons every week, but protecting Jayden Daniels is the number one thing, and that's why they brought in Laramie Tunsil. That's why they took Josh Connerly in the first round, although Connerly had a tough night against the Packers on Thursday. But that's part of the deal. And it just is just awful when your quarterback goes down. Burrow is a great player. I love to watch him play. And just sad for the Bengals. It appears that he won't be around for 3 months at least with this surgery expected. Pete Carroll, we'll see him tonight. He is celebrating his 74th birthday and will be coaching the Raiders in a home game against the Chargers. He did a lengthy interview on ESPN. I think she must be new. I'm not familiar with her. Lindsay Theory is her name. And he talked to her about the birthday today and what it means to be coaching at this age.
Well, if it wasn't for my sons continuing to remind me that I set a record every time we win a game or do anything, but I don't care. It doesn't matter to me at all, really. Mm-hmm. It's not even a factor.
But so a lot of people would look at you and say, Pete doesn't seem that old. Age is just a number. When you think of the number, do you relate to it at all, or do you
No,
feel?
I think people that think that are right. I mean, it's about attitude, and we have ultimately all the control of what our attitude is. And so it's how you look at things. It's how you set your expectations, the standards that you live by. Those are the things that we can control, and that's where it comes all the way back to attitude. We have it. We have what we need.
What continues to motivate you?
Winning. I love winning. There's nothing that replaces that locker room after a game. This whole thing for this year to get back was really about the pursuit of the passion. I was really pursuing that, so I'm thrilled to have an opportunity to be in the midst of all that.
And he made sure that he got Geno Smith with him. Now at 74, Geno Smith, who's now in his 30s, must be early 30s, maybe even close to mid 30s. That's not a quarterback you're going to win a Super Bowl with. How long is he going to be around? Is he going to coach another 5 years and coach close to 80? I think we saw with Belichick, 73 was too old. I don't think he's ever going to get a chance now in the NFL again, which is stunning because if you'd have said, 5 years ago, oh, yeah, Pete Carroll will be coaching in the NFL at 74 and Bill Belichick won't be able to find a job and is coaching in college at 73, you'd say you're nuts. but that's the circumstance right now. As far as reuniting with Geno Smith, I guess something of a security blanket, although, he did have an opportunity to keep Russell Wilson in Seattle and elected to go with Geno Smith. And there is sort of maybe a sort of a disrespect kinship that they feel.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite part of the whole thing, that we got a chance to do this together. Gino and I spent a lot of years together, a lot of years when he didn't play. And in that time, my respect for him just grew year after year, that he was so competitive and he was so into it. And he always believed that he was just one snap away from being out there. And he prepared like it. And I admired that so much because you couldn't hope for more focus and competitive expression than that. And when he finally got a chance, he did well. In his first season he plays, he's a comeback player of the year. And on and on. His numbers have been great since he started playing again. And it's been fun to see like a whole new life come back to him. All the guys that struggle, they live in that darkness of the struggle, and then to see that light come on and see that the hope is there still, and they can, kind of rediscover the belief in themselves that got them there in the first place. It's a wonderful process, and Gino was really an illustration of that.
Do you have one memory with Gino that really stands out?
Well, only because it's kind of documented that there was a time when. He's high-spirited, and things are going to get him riled up sometimes, which I love about him. But that doesn't necessarily suit you as a quarterback. You got to get back on track. And so there's been a number of times, but there was one that was captured, where we gave the look, and okay, it's time to get back to it, and he acknowledged and he went right back to work just the way you hope to. I love that about our relationship. I feel like I know him really well. He knows me really well, and there's no pulling anything over on each other. It's straight up.
Now we get to the juicy part of this, and I'm sure this is going to be played up big tonight before the Raiders and the Chargers play in Las Vegas, and that is the Jim Harbaugh-Pete Carroll rivalry. Believe it or not, this is the 10th time that they're meeting each other, including when Carroll was at USC and Harbaugh was at Stanford, and we'll get to the monumental upset that Harbaugh pulled off in the first meeting. But Carroll still holds the edge 5-4, including their meetings when Harbaugh was coaching the 49ers and Carroll was coaching the Seahawks. Carroll does have a Super Bowl championship. He's appeared in 2 of them. Harbaugh has appeared in 1. Pete Carroll has 12 playoff appearances. Of course, he's coached a lot longer than Harbaugh has and coached other teams besides the Seahawks. He coached the Jets. He coached the Patriots. So he's been in the playoffs 12 times. Harbaugh has made it 4 times. 6 division titles for Carroll, 4 for Harbaugh. Regular season record, Harbaugh is 55-25-1. That's close to 70%. Whereas Carroll is 170, 120, and 1. So that's a 58% win percentage. And in the playoffs, Carroll is 11-11. Despite making 2 Super Bowls, he's 500, whereas Harbaugh is 5-4 in the playoffs. When they went head-to-head in college, they played 3 times. Harbaugh won 2 of them. One of them, I guess, was in Michigan. 2 national titles for Carroll, 1 for Harbaugh, 7 conference titles for Carroll, 5 for Harbaugh. But here's where it all begins. I didn't realize it started this early. March of 2007. Jim Harbaugh was known at that point more for playing quarterback in the NFL for about 15 years, kind of a journeyman career, played for the Bears, played for the Chargers, played for the Colts. So I think may have been even one more team in there. But he hung around for 15 years. Tough guy. And he took the job at Stanford. And the rift started right away. In an interview with CBSSports.com, Harbaugh, while talking about the short tenures of coaches at Stanford, said that Pete Carroll would be at USC for 1 more year. Quote, "That's what I've heard. I heard it inside the staff." So he's saying somebody in Harbaugh's staff, Carroll's staff, said he was leaving. Days later, Carroll responded, "If he's going to make statements like that, he ought to get his information right. And if he has any questions about it, he should call me." Carroll stayed on for 3 more years, and I believe won 2 national titles in that time. Then October of 2007, I remember watching this, and this was amazing. Stanford was a 41-point underdog at home. Their quarterback was Tavita Pritchard, who was the backup, and has, I don't know whether he's still here or not, but was here last year as one of the quarterback coaches. and Stanford was 1-11 the year before. USC had stars. Clay Matthews had a long career in the NFL. Brian Cushing, 41-point favorites. They outscore USC 17-7 in the fourth quarter, and Stanford wins the game 24-23. Biggest play came 4th and 20 with 1:39 to go. Pritchard connected with Richard Sherman. Yeah, that Richard Sherman, who became an all-pro cornerback for the Seahawks for a 20-yard pass that led to a touchdown by Mark Bradford and the game-winning extra point from the kicker, Derek Belch. The winning point scored by somebody named Belch. And then they had their meetings in the NFL. It's always a little bit contentious. It may be contentious tonight. With at one point Harbaugh saying to I guess it was a blowout that Michigan had, I believe. I forget what it was, but it was Carroll saying to Harbaugh, "What's your deal, man?" So this is Carroll talking about, once again, meeting Jim Harbaugh tonight. It'll be the 10th all-time meeting between the two of them going back 18 years.
I don't see rivalries in any of this, but I know other people do. And we've had a lot of opportunities to play against each other. And I have tremendous respect for, and I always say it, about his whole family, all the way back to his dad, who he coached against years ago. But Johnny and Jim are both incredible head coaches, incredible competitors, and that's all I could hope for to go against, And so, over the years, we just had our battles, and we each took our turns winning, and so to have a chance to do this, when I saw the schedule come out, and the first preseason games in Seattle, the opening games in New England, and then first time we get home, here comes Jim and his boys. I was really excited about that. So. We'll see what happens.
The schedule makers know what they're doing.
Might have a little something to do with it.
Did Jim send you a birthday card?
No, he always does. Yeah, he always does. Yeah. Somebody said, he didn't send me a Christmas card or something like that. I don't know about that, but he always. No, he doesn't.
He doesn't, right? Does he? He does not, Pete.
No, I just getting after him because he said he doesn't send me a Christmas card, so I just want to remind him, we're still battling.
Maybe he'll hand you one on Monday.
I don't think he will.
How would you just characterize the battles that you two have had on the field, your teams?
Well, they've been, they've been epic battles at times, because they come at the end of the year in the playoffs, and opportunities that really call for your best. We've had some real moments, and I respect the heck out of those memories, because they were great battles. So I look forward to another one.
That's tonight, and if Harbaugh wins, he evens up the matchup at 5 apiece, including their meetings in college. Last part from Carroll, and that is teaming up with Tom Brady, who league is okay with this. He's getting inside information at these meetings, these production meetings, as he gets ready to do games for Fox. By the way, getting better at it. I'll get to what he said about the tush push yesterday during the Kansas City Eagles game, but he's also one of the owners of the Raiders and is involved, and he and Carroll talk a lot, obviously, with Carroll picking Brady's brain about quarterbacking in the NFL, and this is what Carroll had to say about their relationship.
Oh, man. I've been thrilled to after all of the years of seeing him from the outside in and just knowing who he was and all that, to see the true commitment to competing that he has and that has made him the great competitor that he has displayed and succeeded with, and to know that he's on our side, when he gets a chance. He doesn't get many chances, but when he does, he's here for us. I talk to him often and keep in touch, and we're talking really the essence of ball. We're not talking about the world and what's going on around us. We're talking about football, and he's a great asset. Really, the key reason why I was so excited about this opportunity.
Something that struck me that Tom said was that you connected because he is a great motivator, as are you. When you guys talk, are you motivating each other?
Well, I would say that I don't know about Tom. He speaks for himself. But from my end of it, I want him to know where we're coming from, and I want him to be on board with what's happening, how we go about our business and all. So I'm competing to make sure he's clear, and he knows where we're coming from. And he's been just perfectly supportive. Perfectly supportive in every way, and I couldn't ask for more.
I'll ask the same thing that I asked about some of the other players, but with Tom, is there one specific memory or interaction that really stands out?
Yeah, all the times that we beat him, is probably my favorite part of it, winning in New England way back then. He threw a ball to Gronk, and Cam Chancellor gets up and knocks it down the fourth down and, to win a game. They played at our place, we got him in the rain one night and got him, I'm glad we got him enough. He got us enough times too, so.
And then how would you just kind of describe, I know in season's probably different, but how he helped maybe get you going here with the Raiders and his role in that?
Yeah, well, he's not here all the time. We don't, he's got another job. He's very busy with what he does. But early on, just the conversations that we had right off the bat, and kind of once we got introduced and got talking, and then the next couple conversations were really the ones of great value because he was able to really get down to the nitty-gritty of where he comes from and what his expectations are. I wanted to understand him, and he wanted to understand me. And so the fact that we see so much eye to eye on how we go about the game and what we think of it, the players that we like to play with, the coaches we like to coach with, and what we're looking for and those that we're battling with, we're really on it. So it's like having a partner, in this thing, and that I really cherish.
Pete Carroll turned 74 years old today. Doesn't look it. And as far as the Tom Brady matchups, the one that he didn't mention was not giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch at the end of the game, which would have clinched a second straight Super Bowl championship for the Seattle Seahawks, and they lost the game to Tom Brady and the Patriots. I think that was 5. Was it 5 or was it 4? So I think it was 5. 5 Super Bowl championships for Brady. With that victory, won one more before leaving for Tampa and getting another one. All right, coming up, Herm Edwards with what has made him famous. You play to win the game, and what he says about Jayden Daniels' performance last week. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
So as we come down the home stretch of the baseball season and look at next year, there could be quite a few rumblings at the end of next season that baseball will shut down for an entire year. The worst thing that's happened so far in terms of that was the postseason getting knocked out in 1994 when the players went on strike and they couldn't reach an agreement, and the season didn't resume until late. It was actually a few weeks late in 1995. But we did have an entire season knocked out in hockey. And it started with the lockout 21 years ago today, and we'll look back at that in about 20 minutes. So far, that's the only sport that has knocked out an entire season in a work dispute. And the owners were trying to get a salary cap in place, and there was a rookie for the Capitals who had to start his career a year later. His name is Alex Ovechkin, and he's still playing. And training camp, believe it or not, here it is, the middle of September, and hockey's getting ready to roll. Training camp begins on Wednesday, and he'll be out getting ready for season number 21, presumably his last year. It's the last year of his contract, but you never know what develops. Speaking of developments, if you're not aware by now, Joe Burrow reportedly will have surgery on his toe, which is going to keep him out for 3 months, maybe even longer. But best case scenario, according to what Adam Schefter has, is that he returns around Christmas. And maybe the Bengals are still in it. Maybe they're not. But this is a very serious injury. It's ended careers in the past. You hope it doesn't have a long-term effect on Joe Burrow, but that's the latest that he's going to have this surgery. I don't know if you're watching the Eagles and the Chiefs yesterday, but although it was a win by the Eagles and they did what they needed to do, there is now some anti-tush-push sentiment which wasn't there before. Now, the Eagles have been doing this for years. This has been successful for them. They got a quarterback who can squat 600 pounds in Jalen Hurts. They got big offensive linemen, and it's a legal play despite the challenges, and nobody's been able to stop it. And the Eagles ran it 7 times yesterday. That was 11% of their snaps, almost 12%. Now, remember, the owners had the chance to get rid of it. They at the owners' meetings, there were enough votes there, and it was saved at the last minute by Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie and Jason Kelsey, who was already retired, and it stays in place. But if you're watching yesterday, and as I say, I think Tom Brady has come a long way in a year. I watched him do the opener, the Washington plate. I think he's a lot better than he was, and he was very good in pointing out that there were false starts by both guards on these plays, and the referees just can't see it because of the way that they all bunch together. And this is why I want to see the play go away. It's a rugby play. It's not a football play. And Andy Reid, the Chiefs coach, said after the game, he says, you try to get penetrations, what you try to do to be able to stop the tush-push. They had a couple of them, and they got off early, but we'll look at that. Well, it's not much to look at. It was pretty clear on the replay the two guards were jumping early. And Tom Brady said the brotherly shove is awfully impossible to stop. When you get a false start penalty like that, it's even harder to stop. They missed that one pretty bad. It looked like they missed a couple of times on that. Chris Jones said on the post-game radio show, KMBC, after the game, he said, you can't get all the calls right just because we see it. Sometimes the official is 15 to 20 feet away. Sometimes they can miss those small things. We think he jumped multiple times. The official didn't see it, so it wasn't called. We have to go out and play the next down. So he's taking the high road on that. But we saw what they did with Frankie Louvu during the championship game where he kept jumping over the pile, and finally the referee said, we can award the other team a touchdown if we want to. And Dan Quinn has said, no, don't get rid of it. We're going to try and figure out a way to stop it. Well, they haven't. And I think it's time for this to go. And maybe this is the tipping point for what happened yesterday. The Eagles have a play, which they're great at, understand, and a lot of teams won't do it. You won't see the Commanders do it. They're not going to do this with Jayden Daniels. They're not going to risk getting him hurt on something like this. But it's not, to me, it's not in the spirit of football. You're taking a player and you're shoving him from behind. That's not what football's supposed to be. And this was a rule that was in place for years, and I believe it was, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, where the referees go, yeah, this is too tough to call, so we're just not going to call it anymore. What? No. And now that you have the replay, you should be able to use it. You should be able to use it more, and this should be, well, I guess you can challenge. They also review all scoring plays. So I don't know why they don't find it on these scoring plays, but if you're going to use it 7 times in a game and you're going to use it an advantage jumping off sides like that, that's not good. That's not good at all. So I hope it goes away. It came close this year. All credit to Jeffrey Lurie, owner of the Eagles, and bringing Jason Kelce in to make this big plea. Oh, please, please, please keep it. Doesn't look like football to me. I'd like to see it go. I would like to see the tush-push go away. Herm Edwards showing up on the Dan Patrick Show last week, back as an analyst with ESPN. He had his run at Arizona State, including a quarterback that he had named Jayden Daniels, who stayed there for 3 years and then played 2 more years at LSU. But he's now back in TV and probably will stay there. He's now in his 70s. But it looks great, by the way. But when he was on, he was asked about, probably what he is most famous for, and it goes back to 2002.
Did you ever trademark you played to win the game?
Dan, I did not. And, someone told me to do that, and I was like, I missed out on that one.
How often do you hear that in the course of a day or a week?
Yeah, every time you're traveling, right? When I go back to the worldwide leader, to the mothership in the airports. Hey, coach, and I know before they even say it, Dan, I go, I know, I said it, I get it.
Had you used that line before you got to the press conference?
Nope.
That just came up.
Just came out. Just came out. It was like, and it was funny because we're sitting there at 2-5. This is my second season, I think it is, yeah. And we're struggling, and they're talking about, am I going to fire coaches and all that? And so I'm getting revved up as they're talking. And then I just spit it out. I went, you play to win the game, right? And so it was on a Tuesday and the players were off. And on Monday, they come in, Wednesday, they come in and they say, Coach, we heard what you said. I was getting ready to have a team meeting. And Chad Pennington stands up and he goes, Coach, we heard what you said. And I said, are we good? And I looked at the team and everybody, we're good, Coach. We won the division.
So it worked.
It turned around. And I didn't mean it for that, but I just meant it like, hey, man, we're trying to win a game, guys. I said, it doesn't matter. We need to go win a football game. And it flipped the switch.
It did. I always felt that Herm Edwards was a better soundbite than a coach. He had his opportunities with the Jets, and he also coached Kansas City. And he was great in the news conferences, great with the sound bites, but his teams just never got over the hump. In that case, it worked. As he said, they did flip the switch. They were 2-5. They won 7 of their last 9. They won a playoff game against Indianapolis, and they lost to the Raiders in the divisional round. So you play to win the game was successful for him. And, yeah, probably should have had it trademarked. Could have had money from T-shirts and whatnot. But it is now part of the lexicon of football. Whenever you're falling behind, you play to win the game. You get late in the season, you're out of the playoff hunt. What are you trying? We're playing to win the game. Now, fans say when you get that late, no, lose the game so we can get a good draft pick. And that was kind of the inference there. Like, you're 2-5. You're not really in contention. What do you do now to kind of play towards next year? And he's like, no, you play to win the game. So there's Herm on what happened in 2002. What happened the other night to the Commanders in Green Bay was of particular interest to Edwards because he was the first coach in college that Jayden Daniels had, and this was his assessment of what turned out to be a rough night for Jayden.
They bottled Jayden up or something. He didn't have the big explosive runs that he's capable of garnering when he plays. They didn't allow the run game to get started, right? And all of a sudden, Washington and they pressured him. They pressured him. Did a nice job, and he wasn't very accurate at times when they pressured him, right? So there was no explosive plays. Generally, Washington has explosive plays. They have big. Now the good thing he watched last night, they got Debo going, which is good. That's a good thing. They got him involved in the offense. But it was one of those games. I didn't think they were going to beat Green Bay in Green Bay. It's too hard to play them there. It just is. And now they got that guy number 1, Parsons. Oh boy.
Who's he remind you of?
He can wreck the game. He reminds now. I don't think he's as physical, but Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor was a physical. We used to play him twice a year. Oh boy. And he used to line. I remember one time we were playing him in Philly. He lines up out there on the right side, and it's 3rd down, and he's screaming. He's going, Jaws, I'm coming to get you. And I'm going, oh boy, this is not good. 56 is mad. We try to block him. We try to chip him. I'm going, you can't block this guy, man. He was unbelievable. He was just like, when he got going, it was like lights out. Lights out, man. He's going to close the game out.
And Jaws can't run, so.
No, Jaws couldn't run. Jaws trying to waddle around. I'm going, Jaws, just get down. Throw the ball away, man. Don't let him hit you.
And there's only a couple of those players. That's why when Green Bay made the deal, I thought they paid a little too much individually for Micah Parsons. But you're still getting how many guys change a game?
He changes the game.
Aside from a quarterback, truly change a game. Every single play, you have to know where that guy is.
No, you're right. And what they do, and I should mention this name as well, Reggie White. Right? Reggie White was in Philly before he went to Green Bay.
I think he might be the greatest defensive player in history.
Unbelievable. He came out of the World League or whatever that league was. I remember he came to Philly.
USFL.
Yeah, USFL, right? They had so many leagues. I forget all the names of them. But then he was unbelievable, and he's a preacher, and I can remember he would sack guys and he would go and he'd pick them up. He'd lift them up. He says, may God bless you today. And I'm going, this boy is something, boy. He is really something. He was a great player.
Yeah.
He was a great player and a great human being.
God blessed you, Reggie, not me getting sacked.
That was Herman Edwards on the Dan Patrick Show the other day. Kicking situation in Washington. They had 4 different kickers last year. Brandon McManus was supposed to be their kicker. Then there was the civil lawsuit filed by the 2 flight attendants who said that he harassed them on a flight the year before when he was playing for Jacksonville, a flight to London. The suit was later thrown out, but there was just so much history here with sexual harassment in the organization that they really had no choice but to cut him loose. He's now kicking effectively for Green Bay. And Matt Gay, who was signed in the offseason, got a $4 million guarantee, was shaky in the preseason, and on Thursday night missed 2 kicks inside the 60-yard line. And what we're seeing in the NFL right now is kickers who are routine from 50-plus. Teams have made 5 kicks longer than 55 yards in each of the first 2 weeks of the season. That ranks tied for second out of 431 weeks since 2000, according to True Media. And if you're watching the Giants and the Cowboys yesterday, you saw the Cowboys setting up a 64-yard field goal to tie the game and send it into overtime. Remember, 63 held up for decades. People thought it was nuts when Tom Dempsey even attempted it at the end of the game. This was when they were playing not on artificial turf, not indoors. It was at New Orleans, but they were playing at Tulane Stadium. And the goalposts were up against the goal line. So Tom Dempsey, I think, kicked from like his own 35 or something like that. And the kick was good for 63. Well, now 63 is pretty much routine. We've seen Justin Tucker kick one 66 yards to win it. And by the way, let's think about the name Justin Tucker, because if Matt Gay continues to struggle like this, Justin Tucker's suspension is up in 10 weeks. I know. He's what he's been accused of. I don't think he's been convicted of it. And the Ravens decided, partly because of performance, too, they cut him loose. But that might be a name to consider if Matt Gay continues to miss from inside of 60. And what we're seeing with Brandon Aubrey is just unbelievable. C.D. Lamb said the man is the GOAT, period. I don't know if he's the greatest of all time, but here are some of the numbers. And he's 30 years old, okay? How does Brandon Aubrey get only 3 years of service in at 30 years old? I'll get to that in a moment. But among his accomplishments in 3 years, he's made an NFL record 35 field goals in a row to begin his career. 14 field goals made from 50 or deeper last year, most ever in a season in NFL history. Also owns the longest field goal in Cowboys history, a 65-yarder he made in Week 3 last year against the Ravens, second longest field goal in history behind the Tucker 66-yarder, which was in 2021 to beat the Detroit Lions indoors. And after making the 64-yarder to force overtime Sunday, he now has 2 career made field goals of at least 64 yards. There's only been 2 other made field goals of at least 64 yards in NFL history. 64-yarder by then Broncos kicker Matt Prater, who, by the way, is in the league now. And in 2013, the 66-yarder made Matt Prater in 2013 for the Broncos, and then the 66-yarder for Justin Tucker. Since 2023, Aubrey ranks with made field goals 82. That's first. 91 field goal attempts. They don't care where they are on the field. They're going to try and kick it. Field goal percentage, 90.1. That's fifth. But again, he's kicking all these long ones, so he's going to miss a couple along the lines. Made field goals of 50 yards or deeper, 27 of them since 2023, and made field goals of 60 or more, 4 of them during that period of time. Now, here's the story. It's really amazing. He went to Notre Dame, played soccer. Didn't play football at Notre Dame, then tried Major League Soccer. That didn't work out, so he became a software engineer in Dallas, where he's from. Living in Plano, working as a software engineer from 2019 to 2021, he found a kicking coach on Google. That coach, Brian Egan, happened to be Prescott's Mississippi State roommate and best friend. The Cowboys signed him in the summer of 2023 after 2 years in the USFL. And the only reason that he went looking for a kicking coach on Google was because his wife was watching the Red Zone channel and said, "Hey, why don't you try that?" I mean, it is absolutely unbelievable. And Brian Schottenheimer, the new Dallas coach, says he's comfortable letting Aubrey kick from around 70 yards. So that's, as we say, the new normal in the NFL. And whereas a 50-yard field goal was always a long shot, now it should be made. It's a kick that you certainly should make. And when kickers are kicking at that kind of a percentage, he's a 90% field goal kicker. Mark Mosley, who's the only kicker ever to win the MVP, was a 65% career kicker. It's a new world. And Matt Gay, you're on notice here. And if you can't start consistently kicking field goals of 50 yards or more, it may be time for them to look for a new kicker. All right, we'll wait to see what happens at 3:30 today. I think we're pretty much assured that Austin Eckler is going to be out for the rest of the year with that torn Achilles, which means Bill steps up and they see where they go. It's Chris Rodriguez, who has not been active. He's going to play, and I think he's going to be counted on to make a contribution as well. And then the real cross your fingers on this report from WJFK that Jayden Daniels had an MRI on his knee. Not to get too alarmed about this, but I have seen players, and I don't think it's this. And you had Jayden Daniels saying that he's fine, but there have been players who have walked off the field on their own with, God forbid, a torn ACL. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's serious, and there are some reports that it's not a serious thing. But what seemed to be an ankle injury suffered against Green Bay could be more serious than that. So we will see what happens when Dan Quinn holds his news conference this afternoon. Meantime, Bram should have more on that coming up, and then I will have the recap and more tomorrow when I come on at 9 o'clock as we monitor the Dan Quinn news conference for this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the day, and I will see you back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.